Hey, what's up, you guys? This is John Chacon with Austin Performance Fitness. Want to share with you guys part 2 of Breaking the Fat Loss Code. Today we're going to be talking about the training basics, those things that you need to fit into your training, that I highly recommend fitting into your training in order for you to get the most bang for your buck when it comes to fat loss. Now, this is going to be in addition to part 1, where I talked about the nutrition aspects of breaking the fat loss code. Now, if you remember, I talked a lot about those things that go against conventional wisdom, those things that we've all been told. Little things like, hey, you got to eat breakfast. That's the most important meal of the day. Or, hey, don't eat carbs at night before you go to bed. Or simple things like you can't eat after 7 p.m. or how much protein you're supposed to have. All these little things that we have taken as the end-all, be-all of information, they're not necessarily true. But more than anything, I recommend that in order for you guys to move forward, you let go of those familiar ideas that you believe to be true. And I want you guys to ask some questions. Ask yourself some questions. Ask the magazines. Ask me. Ask anybody, all these gurus. Ask questions. Are these ideas that we're so familiar with, are they true? Because we believe they are, or because everybody else does? Or are you willing to move towards new ideas that challenge you and force the way you think about your training? Because right now, I'll tell you, if you're not making progress and you're not where you want to be in your training, and in your fat loss goals, your muscle building, your strength, whatever it is, I encourage you to ask questions and think about something new. Even though it sounds unconventional, if you haven't given it a shot, you might be leaving some potential there on the table. So, as we begin to move forward, one thing I want to spell out there for you guys is expectations. Have realistic expectations for the information you're about to hear. Some of the stuff I tell you, you might be like, oh my gosh, there's no way that's true. Some of you might be saying, nah, I might hurt myself or whatever. Or you might be, hey, I might give that a shot. No matter what, this information is just information, guys. It's something that you can take, that you can put to action yourself, and you can try. Overall, I want you guys just to cut through the noise so that you can answer the call, so you can go after those fat loss goals. Because of all those things that have been holding you back, you can cut through all that noise. All those things you've been told is the right way to do it. Well, if it's the right way to do it, and you've been doing it for 5 or 10 years, and you haven't made any progress with it, it might not be the right thing to do. Okay? Now, I also want you guys to learn the truth. How do you do that? You experiment. You learn. You physically see what takes place when you take action. And then when you learn the truth, do the work. You now know what works. So do it, apply it, make it happen, and crush your goals. All right, so on to the meat of what we're going to be talking about. Just like I did in part 1, I'm going to be talking about a lot of the lies and myths that we hear so often. Last time we talked about nutrition, this time we're going to be talking about training. Those things that we hear so often in the gym where we're like, that's how it's got to be, that's how it's done, that's what all the experts are saying, and that's what I'm going to do. Whether it works or not, that's what I'm going to do, okay? So, and I'm also going to give you guys an idea or a concept. I'm going to talk about why that may or may not be true. And after I spell out that information, I want you to ask yourself that question. Do you still believe it? Do you not believe it? Do you not believe me? Whatever it is, I want you to ask questions, okay? So, next. So, first thing, cardio is the best fat loss strategy. Whatever you refer to cardio as, most people, it's going on kind of a shuffle/jog for, 2 or 3 miles. Or it might be going on a brisk walk. It might be on the elliptical for 45 minutes. That tends to be the most often. Now, running, I love running. I'm more of a sprinter, okay? But running just happens to be one of the most popular physical activities. It's probably the easiest thing to do because it doesn't require any equipment at all. And most of us tend to be okay with it. However, for me, honestly, it's a little boring. But it is not the best. I'm not saying it's not a fat loss strategy. In fact, you can lose weight, but it is not the best one, okay? Not the best first line defense. all in all, when you think about it, all exercise, no matter what we're doing, whether we're cleaning house or we're swimming or we're lifting a bar over our head, that exercise will burn calories. But not all activity is created equal, guys. You see, the types of movements that we do, the amount of muscle mass and the joints, and the amount of weight that we're moving, all this stuff will dictate how many calories we're actually burning, not only during exercise, but long after. That SLD cardio that you see, that's slow, long-distance cardio. That is probably the most common cardio that we talk about, and that's what I talked about at the beginning of this slide, and that's those slow, long-distance jogs, okay? Now, when I say that it's equal to weight loss in general, weight loss is not the same as fat loss. So think about that a little bit. So weight loss is both, it's just all your tissues. It's your fat. It's your muscles, ligaments, tendons, muscles. For most people, they don't want to lose muscle mass, okay? I know I definitely don't. And in fact, when you lose muscle mass, it actually makes that fat loss journey a little bit harder. But if you've ever watched someone that's run a lot, especially in the weight room or even like as a marathon runner or anything like that, they will tend to lose some muscle mass along with that. They're losing weight, but it's going to be muscle mass along with that fat mass. I don't have the exact percentages or numbers, but I know that it happens because I've experienced it myself. Now I'm guessing most of you will probably want to go for fat loss and not just weight loss. So the most effective ways of continuing to burn fat while maintaining that muscle is going to be the weight training, is going to be the high intensity training. Those workouts where you get in, you move some weight around. It doesn't have to be a ton. It's relative to what your body is able to do. But you move it around, you move it explosively, you move it in control, you move it quickly, you get in, you get out. Those are the type of workouts where you will literally be burning calories for 24 to 48 hours after your workout. Now, statistically, during those slow, long-distance cardio sessions, yeah, you're burning calories during the exercise. But long after the exercise, you're actually not burning all that much, okay? With weight training, whether you're lifting slow or you're lifting heavy or whatever it is, the resistance type training, those things that involve like push-ups, pull-ups, squats, lunges, deadlifts, and all those crazy movements we've happened to come up with in the last decade, there's a much better chance that you're going to be burning calories long after that workout. And who doesn't want to be burning calories while you're doing a bunch of nothing? I'm raising my hand right now because I want to be burning calories while I'm sitting at home, chilling out with my family, making dinner, whatever it is, and while I'm sleeping. I want to continue to burn calories, not just while I'm exercising. So, you choose whether you want to run or be on the elliptical or do any of this long, low-distance cardio for 45 minutes to an hour, or if you'd rather just get in, do some heavy resistance training for 20, 30 minutes, get in, get out, do that 3 times a week versus running 5 times a week, and still burn more calories. I'll let you be the judge of that. Next, light weights and high reps equals a shredded body. I see this one a lot, especially when I walk into just your regular gyms, 24-hour fitness, Planet Fitness, whatever it is. It's still a very common thing. People choosing the lighter weights, they want to be toned, okay? You probably heard that one a lot, firm, and they're just going for high reps. Now, I will not say that light weights and high reps is a bad thing. However, if that is the only thing you're doing, there's a good chance that you're not going to get a shredded body, okay? You're not necessarily pushing your body to that limit, especially if you're staying up in the 15 to 20 rep range. Not going to do too much for you as far as fat loss goes or too much muscle building. You might build some endurance type strength, but it's not going to do anything as far as your fat loss goals go for you. It will burn some calories, but not to the extent that you want them to. So this is probably one of the most common myths in fitness. And despite the popularity, even though everyone's doing light weights and high reps, we still don't see a bunch of Roman warriors walking around our streets. You tell me this, okay? If all those people you see at the YMCA or wherever you go that are doing the light weights, high reps, they don't look intimidating to me. You tell me if they do, and if that's how you want to look, you go for that. However, if there's no struggle, guys, if there's nothing that your body is being changed by, if there's no disruption, if there's nothing causing your body to have to adapt to, then there's no reason for your body to have to build muscle, to build stronger ligaments, tendons, all this stuff, or even to have to burn fat to make a change. Okay, so you need something that's going to challenge you. I'm not saying crush you, by no means, and I'm not a fan of that. So find something that challenges you. The light weights and iReps, we do it because it's easy and because it's familiar and because it doesn't take much effort. But that's not going to cause the disruption or the adaptation that you want in your body. You need to break that muscle tissue down a little bit so that it can rebuild. Now, as I talked earlier, not designed to build muscle or burn fat. And no matter how many thousands of reps you do with those light weights, even if you get tired, you're probably not going to see much progress. In fact, you're probably just going to end up losing more time in the gym, more time away from your family and your friends and your job or whatever it is. And I know most of us don't want that. So look at that concept and think of it something that you still want to pursue. Lifting heavy makes you bulky, okay? Truth is, steroids will make you bulky. A lot of those people that you see in those magazines that are like ridiculously ripped and shredded, I will give you this. Some of them did work very hard. Some of them did make this happen. Maybe if it was just supplements, some guys all natural. But you can tell a big difference between those dudes and dudettes that have done this thing naturally and those that are just massive. I tell you now, they did not do that on their own. They did it by some type of substance, most likely steroids, but it was not on their own, okay? The problem is, especially in America, we've developed this concept of the perfect male body, the perfect female body. Guess what, guys? Less than 5% of everyone living in the world actually has that body, okay? So settle it down with yourself and let yourself know that it's okay if you don't, because you're like 95 or more percent of all the people in the world. So you're not alone, okay? So lifting heavy will in fact tone you up and firm you up a little bit more than most people would think with their lighter weights and their higher reps where they want that firming and toning. You really can't firm up much. In fact, your muscles are always toned. Just as a little side fact for you there, if they weren't toned, we'd all look like a bunch of rubber chickens just kind of hanging out in a puddle of our own skin. The muscles have to be toned at all times. Just a little fun fact for you there. Public perception of image, I've already talked about that. More muscle burns more fat. Yes, the more muscle that you have on your body. Now I'm just talking lean tissue. I'm not talking about being super duper jacked, but the more muscle you have on your body, the more lean muscle tissue, the more calories you're going to burn throughout the day. And that in turn is going to burn more fat. Your body, the muscle on your body needs energy, okay? It needs energy to build, to rebuild the tissue. You need calories for energy, and so you will burn more fat with that muscle mass on your body. And when you have more muscle on your body, you can control your insulin levels better. I have a guy I've been working with for the past 3.5 months. The guy was a type 2 diabetic, very high levels of ATC, and his doctor had him started him on medication. Actually, he'd been on medication for a while. He started training, and I had him on basically a strength training program, strictly strength training, with a little bit of strength cardio, things like sleds, prowlers, and that kind of thing, at his level for the first couple of months. But after 3.5 months, his ATC levels are now down to almost a non-diabetic level altogether. And that's only after 3.5 months. But I tell you what, this client of mine has put on a lot of muscle. He is very strong. Now, he still has some fat to lose, but that fat that most people associate with those poor insulin levels, poor insulin control, and the diabetes, he has no more because he has more muscle on his body and it's helping control his insulin levels better, okay? Now, I don't know about you guys, but personally, I think the athletic look is a little more attractive. Not saying like the really jacked, ripped look. However, some good muscle ladies, it's okay to have a little fat on your bodies. It's fine. I know me men obsess about it a lot, but hey, it's good to have the curves. It's good to look lean and look a little bit athletic. It's okay to have some muscle, okay? And I guarantee you're not going to get super duper jacked as long as you're not taking any roids. And do me a favor, Don't do that. It's illegal. Same for you, gentlemen. Don't be doing that stuff. All right? Ladies, you are beautiful just like you are. So keep that in mind. Crunches give you abs. I did this one a ton when I was in college. Hundreds, if not thousands, of crunches. Crunches will definitely target your abdominal muscle and all the muscles around there, and they'll do it pretty well. But I tell you this right now, 100% fact, they will not make your abs visible, no matter how many crunches you do, folks. And I will talk about this later, and it's called something called spot reduction, where you cannot literally work on one spot of your body, let's say it's the back of your arms or whatever, and lose fat in that particular spot. I highly recommend just focus on lowering your body fat. For most people, when they get their body fat to around 10% or lower, then they can start seeing their abdominals, okay? So dial in the nutrition. That's what's going to bring that down, okay? And start lifting some heavy weights. When you're lifting those heavy weights and you dial in the nutrition, this amazing storm of hormones works together to help you drop fat when you bring yourself up to that level of intensity. Spot reduction, good. So clever that I happen to roll these together. Spot reduction, just like I was talking about, the most common areas we hear about spot reduction: the back of your upper arms, those triceps, okay? The love handles, your upper back, okay? Inner thighs, hips, on all kinds of spaces. Who's done tricep kickbacks, okay, where you're half kneeling on a bench, you put your hand down, and you're just throwing your hand back with a really light weight, okay? I've been there, I've done that, and it didn't do anything. Now, given I was trying to focus on building my triceps, but I tell you this right now, it did not help take any fat off of my upper arm, okay? Again, dial in the nutrition. And let me tell you this too, fat deposition will be determined by your genetics and by your gender. I deposit fat in my body in different places than my buddy who's around my same age, also male. He deposits fat in different parts around his body too. He also builds muscle a little quicker in different parts of his body. Ladies, you deposit fat in different areas than us men do. You have more on your hips, upper back, men more around their gut and more on their sides and thighs. It's all different. So keep that in mind. Just because your best friend doesn't have any fat on their belly doesn't mean it's weird because you do. You guys are different, okay, or wherever it's at. Fat loss is a full body process. That's why I talk so much about dialing in nutrition, being consistent with your workouts. You cannot just lose fat in one spot. You will lose fat all over your body at the same time. Now, you might lose it at different rates in different parts of your body, but you are going to be losing it at different rates, okay? Now, what's the best way to do that? Increase the intensity. Intensity doesn't necessarily have to mean more weight on the bar, guys. You can be moving quicker, more explosively. You can take less rest in between your sets, okay? You can recruit more muscle depending on the way that your arms, your legs, your hips are distributed or rotated or whatever it may be. Another myth, you can't target specific areas of your muscles. Now, this is the myth part. So what I'm saying is you can target specific areas of your muscles. What we just talked about was targeting specific areas of fat. Okay, so you cannot spot reduce fat, but you can target specific areas of your muscles. Bodybuilders have done this quite well, especially within the last few decades, and it's shown. It actually works. I mean, you can do your curls, you can do tricep pushdowns, you can do pec flies, whatever it is. I don't do any of those, but you can actually focus on building muscle tissue in specific muscle groups and areas of your body, depending on what you're doing to isolate those. Don't be afraid to experiment. Hey guys, for instance, if you're doing a deadlift, you can have your feet straight, you can have them point out the side, you can have a wide stance, you can have a narrow stance, you can have all kinds of things. You can use different tools. Different tools have different handles and the weight is distributed differently. And thus, it's going to bring new angles of movement when you produce that exercise, whatever it might be, ranging from dumbbells to kettlebells to barbells to sandbags to bands. Whatever it is you use, it's going to produce a different stimulus on your muscles. You can help to attack weaknesses. You can help to build up strengths where you're at. And you can help to target specific muscle groups and help to strengthen specific joints. Muscle potential is set by genetics and training history. I will tell you that right now. So I used to do a lot of running, a lot of long distance running when I was younger because I thought that was the way it was going to be. I was also blessed with quite small calves. I kept running with the hope and the effort, and I would do tons of calf raises and all those crazy things back in the day, but my calves never grew, sadly. However, I will tell you, after I ran for so long, and guys, this has been like since I ran for probably like 10 or 12 years, starting in like early junior high. And so over time, my muscle tissue, I don't have very explosive muscle tissue, and I'm not using that as a cop-out either. I don't have as much strength potential as I probably would have had I not been running long distance for so long, because my muscle tissue has adapted over time from being those explosive, fast twitch muscle fibers to being those more slow twitch. And over time, I've lost that. So I lose some explosiveness in the gym. I'm still getting stronger. However, I don't have what I would have had had I not been running for so long. So that can change. And I'm talking as that example for training history. Now, genetics is also important. I know that I don't have the same genetics as those elite Olympic weightlifters that can push literally 400 or 500 pounds over their head. I just don't have that potential. But they do. They have it in their genetics. And good on them. They're using it to their best potential. So find out the way that your body works best and attack those movements that work well for you. I know some people, their body they just can't get in the right spot for using a barbell. So they use kettlebells and they crush them. And they do well. And they get insanely strong. And vice versa. Find out what works for you. See, you won't burn fat unless you train for an hour. This is so common. It's probably a common question I get when people ask about our gym. Hey, your workout's about an hour? I got to have about an hour. Well, I'm like, well, you know what? Sometimes we get done in a half hour, sometimes 45 minutes. And they're like, oh, can't do that. Got to get my hour in. So, more time in the gym does not necessarily mean more fat loss. In fact, I would hope to guess that most of you would probably want less time in the gym so you can have more time for your life, because not all of us want to live at the gym. We want to spend time with our family, our friends, spend time on vacation, at our jobs, whatever it is, impacting lives instead of just being in the gym all the time. So you do not have to work out for an hour, okay? If you're short on time, choose those movements, those exercises that give you the most bang for your buck. Deadlifts, squats, presses, clean and presses, bench, push-ups, pull-ups, carries, sled drags. These things that use so much muscle mass, okay? That way you don't have to target specific. You don't have to go to your shoulders, then your chest, then your rear shoulders, your front shoulders, your forearms, your hips, your upper back, your lower back. Do movements that involve all those muscles, guys, all those joints, and you won't have to worry about that. Take short rest periods and use a weight or a resistance that keeps you somewhere in the 4 to 8 or 10 rep range, okay? And do every movement to the best of your ability. Do them well. Full range of motion, all the way up, all the way down, all the way forward, all the way back, except nothing less, okay? If all you're doing is sticking around that 10 to 15 or even 20 rep range, might not be the best for you. Hormones. Now that we talked about all those myths, we're going to be talking about how this type of training will affect your hormones. And I will tell you right now, as it says in the slide, hormones run everything. We need to take our hormones and get control of them. And when we do this through nutrition and through our training, then we can start to control our fat loss. So I'm going to talk about, when I go through this, I'm going to talk about what each one of these hormones is doing. And then I'm going to talk about how you can optimize those specific hormone levels with your training. So we're going to be talking about growth hormone, leptin, ghrelin, insulin, cortisol. First one, growth hormone. This thing does so many great things. of all the things that it does, the two best are burning fat and building muscle. And no, you don't have to go get it in a pill form or in a liquid form. You can actually increase the growth hormone in your body on your own. And growth hormone isn't just for muscles, folks. Growth hormone is for all the cells in your body. It helps to grow, and that's what it does. How can you build growth hormone and get more of it? Sleep more. Everybody has a different amount of sleep that they require for their bodies. Me personally, I'm pretty good on 9 or 10 hours. Do I get that? No, I don't. However, I know what I function best off of. And sleep is additive. What I mean by that is it all adds up. So if you get little half-hour naps throughout the day, you're adding on your sleep, and that's a good thing, and that helps. But at night, try to get that sleep. Put the laptop down. Turn the TV off. Dim the lights. Try to get a room that's completely blacked out. Make your room comfortable. Make it cool. Use noise if you need to help yourself go to sleep and get comfortable and sleep deep. Okay, get as much as you can. Even if you're limited to 2 or 3 hours. I remember I was when I was in the military. Do it. Get it. You need it. Okay. Now, another great way to increase growth hormone is lifting heavy weights. That crazy thing that we thought that was going to bulk us up like crazy. But remember, it's those roids, people. It's those roids. Put them down. Step away. Lift some heavy weights. Get in the gym. Challenge your body. Now, heavy weights is different to everybody. I'm not going to have someone that's not been working out for 10 years and they're in their mid-40s and they work a sedentary job at a desk. I'm not going to have them come in here and start lifting 315 pounds in a deadlift. That's crazy. Start at a level that you feel comfortable with and start adding on to it each week. Whether you're adding more reps, whether you're adding more sets, more weight, less rest in between your sets, whatever it is, those are all ways to make progress. But whatever you do, lift some heavier weights. Okay, get rid of those 10 to 15 to 20 rep ranges. Perform sprints. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be sprinting on your legs like a normal running sprint. However, I will say that a running sprint is probably one of the most effective fat loss tools there is, especially when you're going all out for 10 or 30 seconds at a time. In fact, a great workout for fat loss, if you're really short on time, set a timer. Run as hard as you can for 15 seconds and give yourself a 15-second break. And then do it again 7 more times. You got yourself a full body workout using your arms, legs, hips, everything. You got it going and you're done in just a little bit of time. You'll be burning calories all throughout the day. Do some high-intensity metabolic resistance training. This has become really popular with a lot of our boot camp style training where you're using various movements, various tools, and you're working at a pace that feels comfortable, usually using some type of interval, whether it's 50 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, whatever it is, you're giving yourself a set period of work and rest, okay? And that is a great way to get in as much work as possible. You're expending energy. That is the main idea. But when you're doing this type of training, folks, after a solid warm-up, I recommend not going more than 30 or 40 minutes with this stuff. Sometimes even less than that can be just right, okay? Don't overdo it. Another great way to increase growth hormone is just not eating before your workout. As we talked about in our part 1 of Breaking the Fat Loss Code, you don't have to eat before your workout. It's not a necessary thing. And in fact, if you have been fasting, especially in the morning, if you don't eat anything before your workout, there's a better chance that you're going to increase growth hormone during your workout and thus burn a little bit more fat and build some more muscle, giving you more benefit, more bang for your buck for that workout that you just busted your butt on, okay? Performing lactic acid training. Lactic acid has a lot to do with increasing growth hormone. Now, we've heard this term a lot, especially if you've gone on a run. The first 5 minutes, you start feeling everything burn inside your legs, your calves, and everything. And then eventually, it goes away. And that's when your body starts utilizing oxygen as its main energy source, where you start breathing, you get that steady breathing, and it also starts to incorporate that lactic acid. A great way to do that in the gym is actually to go slow on the concentric part of the movement. For instance, if you're doing a squat, you, instead of going slow on the way down, you come down under control with a regular pace, and then you go up at about a 3 to 4 second cadence, nice and slow, creating more time under tension with that movement. I personally have not experimented with this. However, I have read and there's a lot of coaches that I've trained with and that I trust have used this method. Again, use it, try it yourself, read about it a little bit more, and give it a shot. Okay, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. No big deal. And then inverse relationship with cortisol. So the more growth hormone you have, the less cortisol is going to be available in your body. The more cortisol you have, in other words, lack of sleep, stress at work, stress at home, alcohol, smoke, all these things, they build up that cortisol and they take away that growth hormone. It actually reduces it significantly to the point where you're starting to put more fat on and muscle is starting to be taken away from your body. Leptin, the anti-starvation hormone. Okay, this hormone actually regulates is actually regulated by your thyroid hormones, T3 and T4. You don't need to know about that. All you need to know is the more fat that you have left to lose on your body, the higher your leptin levels are going to be. So here's the thing: when people start cutting their calories so much, as we talked about in part 1, leptin actually kicks in and it makes sure that you store more fat. Okay, so when leptin levels are high, you're able to burn more fat. When it gets low, it actually makes sure that you don't burn fat. It actually keeps it on there because it doesn't want you to starve. Even though you can physically see that you have a lot of weight to lose, because you're not putting in enough calories, your leptin levels will lower so that you start putting on fat, because your body will still see that as a starvation type mode. Okay, so it's built in there in our bodies for a reason. What's a great way to get control of your leptin levels and keep those suckers elevated? Perform resistance training, i.e. lift some heavy to medium weights, staying in those 4 to 10 rep ranges, okay? Perform long distance cardio fasted. Remember I told you earlier, cardio isn't bad. It's just not the most effective tool as compared to resistance training. Now, if you're trying to look for a little bit of extra fat loss, maybe you're getting ready for a competition or whatever, wake up in the morning in a fasted state. In other words, not eating any food. The last food you had was dinner before you went to bed. And go on a long distance run. Okay, just nice and easy. Doesn't need to be crazy fast paced. And just hit it. Go out, run 20, 30, 40 minutes. Head back. Guarantee you're going to improve those leptin levels and you'll be burning some fat. Now, just like when we talked about leptin with your food, the idea or the goal is to kind of balance things out. You want to be able to reduce your calories enough, but not too much, okay, so that your leptin levels can stay optimal. Same thing with your training. The goal is to burn fat and build muscle at a moderate pace. You hear a lot of people when they bulk up, they intentionally eat a bunch of crappy food and lift heavy weights, but they also end up putting a bunch of fat back on. Then what they do is they start lifting lighter weights and they do more cardio, and then they have to lose all that fat. Well, guess what? They've just lost a whole bunch of muscle with it. The smartest way to do it, folks, build muscle and burn fat at a moderate pace. They're both going to happen a little bit at the same time. I don't recommend doing those things in steps. Otherwise, you're going to be going back and forth for the rest of your life. Take control of those leptin levels. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone. Ghrelin is both secreted by hunger and induced to produce hunger. So whenever you get hungry, you're producing a lot of ghrelin. Train later in the day, okay? When you are training later in the day, you can actually, it's similar to when we actually had to hunt for our food and you had to actually physically go out and do some physical work before you ate. This will also help to prime your body for a big dinner. Statistically speaking, this has helped more people burn more fat if they're working out later in the day around that. I know it's hard when you get off work. However, I have also done those early morning workouts, but I will tell you it has been more effective for me doing those later in the day workouts, okay? If you train earlier in the day and you have to, then that's not bad. It's not a bad thing. But if you must, I highly recommend have some type of post-workout protein and carbohydrates, whatever that might be. You can have meat, you can have a protein shake. All you need is somewhere between 15 and 30 grams of protein, and probably somewhere about 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates. You don't need a whole bunch, but you do need a little bit when you're working out in the morning, especially in a fasted state. Get a little bit of something in your body. The example I have, 2 to 3 eggs or a slice of toast or half a cup of oatmeal. Keep it simple, but make sure you get that protein in there, folks. Insulin. This is that hormone we've talked about. It is the gatekeeper. If you just think about one of those British guards with the huge fluffy hats, okay? Think about insulin as one of those guys for your body, okay? Insulin determines where your fat is being deposited, okay? We talked about this in our nutrition part 1 of the Breaking the Fat Loss Code, where when we're eating so many carbohydrates so often, our insulin levels were constantly being spiked, and eventually the insulin didn't know where to transport all these free-floating blood sugar molecules, and so it started storing as fat because the muscles became resistant to it. They didn't want to take in what the insulin was offering, okay? A great way to get your insulin under control is to perform resistance training. Again, when you're doing resistance training, you're using any of those excess calories that you have available, okay, including the fat calories. Build muscle. When you build more muscle, you're going to increase that insulin sensitivity. Again, that's by my friend I just told you about that's been training for about the last 3.5 months. His insulin levels have gone to a much, much better state. And like I said, his ATC, it was up in the 11-12 range, which is pretty scary. Doctors don't like that range. We got him all the way down to less than 6, which is pretty amazing. And he's now at nearly a non-diabetic level where he's actually safe and can almost be considered non-diabetic. So a lot of that has to do with the amount of muscle we've put on his body to increase his insulin sensitivity. When you become insulin sensitive, your muscles are more sensitive to take in those nutrients that the insulin is trying to drive into your muscles, okay? And they're a lot less likely to be driven into your fat cells. Your body learns how to process and use carbs and sugar more efficiently when you're training with resistance type training, folks. Don't neglect it. Cortisol, it's that stress hormone, right? Determines our fight or flight. It can be a good thing when we're in the weight room and we need to lift that heavy weight and we need to go that extra mile. The fight or flight kicks in. However, we can start to build up more cortisol over time if, one, we're not sleeping. Get more sleep. When you don't get sleep, you build cortisol. When you build more cortisol, you actually have a harder time going to sleep, and it becomes a vicious cycle. So get sleep. Perform resistance training to reduce excess body fat. When you have extra body fat on your bodies, guys, your cortisol levels actually stay more elevated. So when you reduce that fat on your body has less physical stress on it. So you're reducing the amount of cortisol that you have. Now, don't go overboard in the training, guys. I have been guilty of this many times in the past of overtraining. Don't overdo it. Listen to your body. If you walk into that gym, you are feeling sluggish, you are feeling moody, your energy is zapped, you're sleepy, all these things, I highly recommend not training, okay? Go take some passive rest. The best way to get recovery and get your cortisol levels back under control, one, don't do anything but what is required by your normal daily job in your life. 2, eat some food. Get some adequate nutrition in your body. And 3, drink water, okay? Big deal. Those 3 things will get you back. Already talked about not training when you feel asleep, tired, and weak. Bottom line, guys, here are the big things that you can do. All these main points, let's see, 8 points that I got. If you stick to these, I guarantee your fat loss results will be a lot better in this journey, because it's not easy, guys, and everyone has their ups and downs in this journey. Make no mistake. First one, sleep more. Find out what works best for your body and get it. If you can get naps in, hit those suckers up and hit them hard. Perform resistance training, guys. Don't be afraid of those weights. Don't be afraid of the dumbbells, the barbells, the deadlifts, the squats, all these things. Hey, if you don't want to use weights, that's cool. Use your body weight. Push-ups, pull-ups, squats, lunges, sprints. You can do a lot of great things with just your body weight, but make it challenging. Perform high-intensity training. What do I mean by that? Use more weight. Use lower rep ranges. Use less rest between your sets. Move more explosively. Move with more speed. Okay? These are all forms of intensity. Lift heavy. Don't be afraid to lift something that you can only lift for 3 or 4 or 5 reps, okay? Lift heavy. As long as you're maintaining form, guys, it's going to produce some amazing, amazing results. Keep the training sessions low as far as time goes. 30 to 40 minutes max. You don't need much. In fact, I will tell you right now, 90% of my workouts are under 15 minutes. And that's not a joke. And that's after my warm-up, of course. But I don't have time to be messing around with these hour-long workouts. And most of the time, folks, I only do 1 or 2 movements. I practice what I preach. I stick to those movements that involve a lot of muscle mass. Squats, push-ups, pull-ups, bench press, power cleans, using all kinds of different tools. Stick to these things, and you get more bang for your buck, guys. You have to spend less time in the gym, and who doesn't want that? Don't overdo it. Listen to your body. Remember we talked about that cortisol and overtraining. If you're feeling sluggish, tired, and weak, you probably shouldn't go in there and crush yourself in a workout. Probably not a good idea. In fact, you'd probably burn more fat and build more muscle if you just went home and rested. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but remember at the beginning we talked about letting go of those things that we're familiar with and allowing these new things to come into our brains and let us think about it. Just do me a favor, just try it. That's all you can do, okay? If it doesn't work, come back and slap me in the face. Next, perform sprints. You can run ropes. You can use ropes, the battling ropes, light to medium weight, but be explosive, moving 10 to 30 or even more seconds at a time. I guess you could even do up to 50 seconds, but with a sprint, because you're going all out, folks, you probably, for most people, can't go over 30 seconds. I know if I'm going all out, giving it every single thing I got on a sprint, 10, 15, 20 seconds is a lot of dang time because you are moving fast, you're moving explosive. Now, if you're just kind of taking your time, you're pacing it out, you can go forever. But shoot, sprint, take less time, hit it hard, get in, get out, and you'll be good to go. And lastly, in order to take control of those ghrelin levels and your hunger, try to train later in the day, okay? I know we talked about in part 1 of Breaking the Fat Loss Code that fasting in the morning is a great fat loss tool, okay? In other words, kind of skipping breakfast and eating a little bit later in the day. For most people, that's like noon to 3, somewhere in there. If you take advantage of training later in the day, there's the less chance that you're actually going to be super hungry. If you're working out hard in the morning and you're fasted, guarantee you're probably going to be hungry. I was there, I've done that, and I ended up drinking a lot of coffee to try to curb that, and it did not feel good. So if you can fit it in your schedule, try to work out later in the day. Okay? Now, this is just part 2 of a 6-part series, guys. We have part 3, 4, 5, and 6 coming up. The next 3 you're not going to want to miss, okay? These are all about the change mindset. What is it in our minds, in our emotions, that is required for us to make these big changes in our lives? These changes that we all want. Fat loss, muscle, all these things. We want better performance. We want better cardio, better lung function, better heart function. We want better brain function. We want all these things. And yet it's still so hard. It is hard, guys. It is not an easy thing. A lot of people make it out to be this easy thing. But I'm going to give you the tools that you need to make sure that you make the change and that you stay on a constant state of progress. And at the very end, we're going to put it all together. And I'm going to build a plan just for you. So stay tuned, guys. Remember, a person with less knowledge that takes more action will be more successful than the most knowledgeable person that does nothing. There's so many people out there, guys, that they just raid the forums and the magazines, and they know everything about training, right? You've probably met them at the gym before. Hey, let me tell you, this is how you do this, this is how you do that. Well, are they actually doing it themselves? Hey, if you don't have that much knowledge, the best thing you could probably do is, after you've learned just a little bit, you got a little bit in your hip pocket there, try it out. Go do something. Take action. I guarantee you will be more successful than those people that all they do is they just learn more. Okay? Do something about it. Get out of your comfort zone. I talked about a lot of stuff today that you're like, oh my gosh, there's no way that's real. Prove it. Go out there, do it. Either prove me wrong, or prove yourself wrong, or prove yourself right. Whatever it may be, go out there, get out of your comfort zone, lift something heavy, move quickly, and get on it. Don't believe everything you're told, even everything I just told you. Don't believe it all until you try it. But don't discount it either until you try it. Explore new ideas and be challenged, guys. And always, always, always ask questions. That's something I'm a big fan of for all my clients that come in here. I promise them that I will never do anything or have them do anything that I can't explain why I'm doing it, okay? If you're going to a gym, if someone's having you do stuff that they can't explain to you why they're doing it, you might want to question why you're even doing that or why you're even there, okay? Don't be afraid to ask questions. It's your body after all, okay? Want even more, guys? We have, I put out a free newsletter, info. Actually, that website is now changed, but it'll still work actually. johnchacon.com/strengthblog. You can also go to atxpf.com or austinperformancefitness.com or check out Facebook page, Austin Performance Fitness. On our website, atxpf.com or johnchacon.com, there is a sign-up spot on the Contact Us page where you can actually sign up for a free newsletter we put out. We put out motivational stuff, training, nutrition, mindset tips all the time. We also have events going on, and don't worry, I won't flood your email, folks. I know you sign up for some of those newsletters, and they send you like 7 or 8 emails a week, even more, maybe multiple a day. I will send you 1 email, maybe 2 at most sometimes, but usually just once a week because I don't want to take up your time. In fact, I'd rather you take that time to be taking action. Okay? So, this is John Chacon with Austin Performance Fitness, and this has been Breaking the Fat Loss Code, Part 2. Stay tuned for Part 3, 4, and 5 for the mindset training, and at the end, we're putting it all together, guys. Love y'all. Take care. Stronger every day. Peace.